Hello everyone, my name is Luke, and you have once again entered the world of wrestling with evil. So this is the portion this is the portion of the channel where I make tier lists about a bunch of stuff that I love, including, including Resident Evil, TV shows, all types of other stuff. Just going ham and putting everything in tier lists. Hold on, let me okay. And F tier. I don't know why a 3 is there. That's odd. Okay. So yes. So this is where I tier list all kinds of things. Basically what a tier list is you rate it from S tier, which is the best, to the worst, which is F tier. And I'm just gonna go through the labels real quick. That you can make whatever label you want. But my labels are S tier is GOAT, which means greatest of all time, baby. A tier is really good. B tier is good. C tier is average. D tier is meh. It's like nah. And E tier is not so good. And F tier is garbage, because there are some things in the world that are just complete and utter garbage. So basically today I am going to tier rank every Resident Evil game. There are 24 in the current span of time. Right now I have my cat over here just chilling. Say hi, buddy. Say hi, buddy. Say hi. He's so cute. My cat is adorable. But you have to go down because I have stuff to do. Alright, so, and also, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a game in whatever tier I think it belongs in, and then I'm going to discuss why I feel like it should be in that tier, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So, let's get into it. I am excited. I recorded this video before, but I put it on the wrong setting, and it didn't really upload to YouTube right, but have no fear, because I'm gonna do it again. So, let's start off. The first game is, Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles. I'm gonna put that in the average tier. And then, basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about it, say what I liked about the game, what I didn't like about the game, yada yada. So, basically, this game was made for the Wii, the Nintendo Wii. It basically, it's an on-rail shooter, basically, what this game is all about, it's basically like a retelling of certain games, but like, not going through the whole game, but it's on rails, so you can't really move around, the camera kind of moves for you. And you aim with a light gun or one of the Wii remotes or whatever, and you take down some enemies, get some headshots, motherfucker. I like this game. I didn't play through all of it just because I don't have a lot of people to play games like this with, or games with in general. But it's a great game for what it is. They really buckled down, and they remade the streets of Raccoon City very well, I must say. And, Leon and Claire are always really good together, obviously, and I think there's a point where Leon is with Claire is with Chris, on Rockford Island, and then Claire is with Steve, also. But yeah, basically it's like a, kind of like a retelling of the story in a different way than fixed camera perspective, which I enjoy. I feel like any Resident Evil fan should probably pick up the game. I'm just gonna put it in average, though, just because you can't really play by yourself. There's not much playability when it comes to playing with yourself. Playing with yourself. But yeah, no, it's a fun game though. I've always loved going into arcades and playing House of the Dead 2 with my dad and shooting the zombies. Like, it was always really fun to me. All right, so let's move on. I'm gonna put that in average tier for now because it is average. There are a lot of other Resident Evil games that are better. So I'm just going to put that there for now. The next game is Resident Evil 1 Remake. I'm going to put that in the GOAT tier. Because Resident Evil 1 Remake is probably the best made survival horror game, and Resident Evil game ever made, honestly, in my opinion. It basically remakes the first game. Well, that's exactly what it does. It remakes the first game, takes everything from the first game, adds it into this port of the game, and adds upon it. You have defensive items that were added to this game, new areas, a new boss called Lisa Trevor. She has a really cool, weird, fucked up backstory that if you read documents, you kind of, you kind of get it and understand, why she's creepy and how she became what she is. And it's just really cool exploring more on the lore in the mansion. Everything looks a lot better in this game than the original. I'll talk about the original in a little bit. But no, just the lighting, the atmosphere alone is really, really good. And it's basically like a nice, middle finger to anybody who knows the original game. When those dogs come out of the glass in the original, it doesn't happen in the remake like that. They come out of the window when you go back through that hallway. Not when you go through the first time, but the second time you come back the other way. That's when the dogs jump out. It's just like it's a really, really good game. I enjoy playing it on hard and on pretty much any difficulty. Like, the atmosphere is so great, the pacing is excellent, storytelling phenomenal, and they get rid of some of the cheesy dialogue, which is I could take it or leave it, but and the zombies look really cool. All the enemies look really cool, and they improved upon the liquor in the remake, which is definitely saying something. Because the liquors in the original, I'll talk about in a minute. They were they were something. They were enemies, all right. Let's just say that. So let's move on to Resident Evil 2 remake. I'm gonna put this game in A tier. And I'll tell you why. Because there are good and bad parts to pretty much any game. Like, if you're the type of person that picks apart stuff like I do, maybe that just means I'm not satisfied with anything. Who knows? That's probably why I'm single. But Resident Evil 2 Remake is a retelling, or not even just a remake, just a reimagining of the second game in the franchise, Resident Evil 2, that was made in 1998. And the Resident Evil 2 Remake was released in 2019, so about a year ago from this video being filmed. A little bit over a year, maybe a year and a month. It takes what you know about Resident Evil 2, and there's no fixed camera. It's over the shoulder in this game. It takes what you know about Resident Evil 2 and really, really polishes it, makes it its own, in some good ways and in some bad ways. When you first get into the RPD, it's definitely really lackluster. It's not like the original. The original was very tense, and you had those tense moments, and trying to dodge the zombies and get all the way to the RPD without dying, because you don't get any health items. And with the Resident Evil 2 remake, it's just you kind of go through, and most of those zombies aren't even like programmed to attack you. It's just a little too easy. There's no learning curve. That's what I like about Resident Evil games. It's like there's a learning curve. You have to know. You have to learn where the zombies are positioned, and sometimes there's RNG where, it fucks you up. It's different every time, but with Resident Evil 2 Remake, it's pretty much the same every time, and that's what kind of bugs me. There's two scenarios to Leon and Claire's story. You play as Leon and Claire. You could choose, one or the other, and there are two separate scenarios. Basically, in the beginning of the game, like all you guys know, you get in a car crash. You're driving in a helicopter into the city, or no, not in a helicopter, in a police car into the city. That would be cool if they came into the city in a helicopter. That'd be fucking dope. But no, they came through the city in a police car after escaping some zombos and whatever, and they got split up because one person is on one side of the car, one person's on the other side of the car. And there's a big car accident, fire, the police car blows up, etc. And they're split in different ways. They have to get to the police station in different ways. So, basically, with B scenario, it was like it was like the A scenario, which I had a real big problem with. There were only like a few separate changes. The two changes that I could think of off the top of my head were the way you enter the RPD, um, and the getting the long ending, where you fight the William Birkin's fifth form, which is a phenomenal fight, by the way. William Birkin's fifth form looks great in this game, but I just don't like the fact that they made it exactly like the A scenario. They should have made different bosses for each character's scenario, if that makes sense. Like, not have it be the same. Because it just takes away from the replayability of the B scenario. Why beat the B scenario if you just play the A scenario, But no, I really like Resident Evil 2 for, the zombie mechanics are really cool. The lickers are reinvented, reimproved. Most of the enemies are sound-based. Like, you got Mr.X who fucks your shit up if you run. He finds you and he just messes you up, punches you in the face, kicks you in the balls, or lady balls if you're Claire. It's just, it's a really fun game. It's a game where you have to learn how to aim and not hesitate, because then those enemies will fucking kill you. But yeah, you have to walk past the lickers and whatever. I do like the William Birkin fights, but I feel like the transformations of William Birkin kind of happen sudden instead of like very gruesomely like it happened in the original. I'll talk about that once I get to the original Resident Evil 2. But let's see. Yeah, and also they took away some of the enemies from the original Resident Evil 2. The zombie spiders. Clyde, what are you doing? How'd you get here? What are you doing? I lost my train of thought. My cat always jumps on my lap. I don't even know how he gets on my lap from this height, but cats would be cats, right? but no, like, they took out some of the enemies, from, the original Resident Evil, like the spiders, which I didn't really care about, but I thought the moth boss could have been a really interesting, enemy to substitute the first Birkin fight, with Claire or Leon, depending on what scenario. They really could have added that moth boss, and it could have looked creepy and gruesome, and they could have made it into something better than the original. I thought that was a little bit of a cop-out, but overall, Resident Evil 2 Remake is really, really, really phenomenal. I love playing the game. It has a shit ton of replayability. The DLC for the game is really good. And just like Claire and Leon look so good, the game looks polished to hell. It looks phenomenal. The RPD station looks really great. Another thing that it's kind of like a nitpick. Most people don't really care about it, but I had a problem with it. It was the ivy plants towards the end of the game. They look too humanoid. I liked the way they looked in the original Resident Evil 2, where they were more plant-like, and they didn't really have like a human head, but their heads spread open into like a four-way pattern, kind of like a Demogorgon type thing. I thought it was really cool in the original Resident Evil 2, and I wish they would have, added that enemy to, the Resident Evil 2 remake, but, unfortunately, I guess it didn't work out that way. They probably couldn't program it in. They probably didn't have enough time, whatever. They wanted to make everybody happy, but, yeah, it falls off at points. It really does, which is why it's not at the GOAT tier, but I do really enjoy playing it. Come on, dude. What are you doing? But yeah, no, that I do really enjoy the Resident Evil 2 remake, but it's one of those things where I wish it could have been better, but I mean, I accept it for what it is. So let's move on. So we got Resident Evil Gaiden. I'm going to put that in not good tier, because you can't really have a Resident Evil game for the Game Boy Color that's going to be all that spectacular. I mean, a Resident Evil game wasn't good until, on handheld systems for Nintendo until like the 3DS era with, Revelations, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Resident Evil Gaiden is one of those games that they were just like, okay, we want to give people variety in what they play, because, if they don't have a PS1 or, a Nintendo or whatever, if they have a Game Boy, a handheld system, like, we can give them a Resident Evil game for that. The story's not that great. It takes place on a boat. Um, and you have Leon and Barry as a protagonist, which is really cool to see them together, but the gameplay isn't really that great. The movement is very clunky. It's even more tanky than the classic tank controls, which I'm not a big fan of. I like the original tank controls, but not this kind of tank control. And when you shoot an enemy, it's not like, Resident Evil 1 where you shoot the enemy and you have to hit him and down him and whatever. It gives you like a little mini game to play, and you have to aim the reticle or, the thing in the right place in order to actually shoot the enemy. So it's just kind of, it is what it is type thing, like I can't really say that it's garbage just because, it is a game. Some people actually like it. I feel like it's a game that probably in years or, by now it should have some sort of maybe cult following. But it's just not my type of game. I wasn't really a Game Boy Color kid. My first system was the PS1, which is why I love Resident Evil so much. I used to watch my dad play Resident Evil, and dude, the Resident Evil games fucking kick ass. I love a majority of them. And honestly, these tier lists, they don't really mean a thing besides like maybe like the lower tier lists. Those are probably the games that I probably can't stand to play or wouldn't pick up or stream on, on my channel or anything. But I love Resident Evil. Like, just because it's in a certain tier and I'm nitpicking about it, it doesn't mean that I love, any of these games less. It just means that some were better than others. Which, I mean, I've been playing Resident Evil for a really long time, so I think I've, I think I've earned that coin to be like, okay, well, this isn't that great of a game, I mean, but it also depends on people's preferences, so definitely take this tier list with a grain of salt. So let's move on. The Resident Evil Outbreak games. It's very interesting because I'll do the Outbreak games together just because there's no point in talking about one without having the other present. Okay, so the Outbreak games. It was a team. Okay, I'm gonna first start by saying that I really missed out with these games. They were released for the PlayStation 2, and they were like some of the first like real hardcore co-op games that you could play online with friends, and that was the only way to really play them. It was really hard to play them single player because the AI doesn't really do shit for you, and they take a lot of damage. So I mean, there's that, but the Resident Evil Outbreak games were really good. I didn't play through either one of them just because I felt like it was really hard to play single player because I missed out on the PlayStation 2 version of these games. But it would have been I'm so pissed off that I missed out on that part of Resident Evil because it would have been really, really fun to, play with friends and, meet new people and, play Outbreak. Like, it would have been pretty cool. It was classic tank controls, the whole nine. The enemies were really cool, too. The boss fights were great. You had a giant, zombie elephant in one of the games. Marvin comes back in one of the games. You have new characters like Rita Phillips, David Ford, among others, other really unimportant, unmentionable characters. And like I said, the boss fights are really cool. You have an enemy called Nyx. I think it's a tyrant and a plant zombie fused together, and it just grows into this giant plant abomination. It's really sick, really dope. And you have a zombie tiger, which is really hard to take down. And you kill zombies and you fight all sorts of shit. It's really cool. It's it definitely would have been great if it was made now as opposed to on the PS2, which I mean if you had a router in the PS2 days, you probably and you were a Resident Evil fan, you probably played these games, but if you didn't, then you were kind of missing out, and that really sucks. I would have loved to play like games like SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 online with friends. Because that was one of the games that I was really good at when I was a kid. All right, so I think I talked enough about the Outbreak games. Let's move on. So, we have Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. Okay, so I'm gonna put Umbrella Chronicles on the same in the same tier as the Dark Side Chronicles. Actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna put it in the meh tier, the D tier, just because the Umbrella Chronicles it was pretty much the same thing as Dark Side Chronicles, but there wasn't really too much going on with it. It wasn't all that inventive and great. A lot of the enemies basically looked the same as Resident Evil 1 remake, which honestly, I'm not knocking Resident Evil 1 remake. I would never knock that game. That game is a diamond in the rough. Like, that's like finding gold while you're walking down the street. It's like finding $1,000 bill while you're walking down the street, basically. It's like it's crazy. But no, the Umbrella Chronicles just felt like more of the same. Didn't really do anything that too inventive. It just kind of stuck with the same looking stuff as the GameCube era Resident Evil games, and it didn't look that great. But it was still as fun as Umbrella Chronicles. It just it goes down a tier because obviously it's definitely less fun to play first player if everything just kind of looks the same as the games, a few games that came before it on the GameCube and whatever. So yeah, I mean there were parts that you play as Billy and Rebecca, which I don't even really like Billy. I don't really think he's a great character. I'll talk about that when I get to Zero. But you also get to play as Jill and Chris, and who doesn't love that? That pairing is always really, really nice. So yeah, that's Umbrella Chronicles in a nutshell. Yeah, nothing much more to say about that. It's in D tier. It's not good, and it's not garbage. Let's just say that. So let's move on. Okay, Resident Evil Dead Aim. I'm gonna put that in the meh tier also, just because it was playable, but it was a lot easier to play with light gun support. Well, it has light gun support, but it was easier to play with a light gun, and it was easier to play with a mouse. And it's weird that you can hook up a mouse to your PS2 and play a Resident Evil game. Didn't make sense, but I feel like the game is kind of uninspired. It's another game that takes place on a boat. The setting is on a boat. I'm on a boat, motherfucker, come look at me. All right. Enough of that shit. So, the Resident Evil, yeah, no, it's on a boat like Resident Evil Gaiden. But it's done pretty well, but poorly at the same time. It's one of those games where they tried first person and over the shoulder, and it didn't really quite work out so well. They didn't really get first person right in a Resident Evil game until Resident Evil 7, which I'll talk about. But Bruce McGivern is the protagonist in the game, and and then he comes across this I forget whether she's Chinese or Japanese. I don't remember, but she has a very, very Asian name. But he gets he finds out there's a zombie apocalypse on the boat, yada yada. There's a final boss fight. Typical stuff. Not really much to write home about, to tell your mama about, to tweet about. It's not really anything. I personally would pick this game up if I was a Resident Evil fan. Like anything under D tier is just I wouldn't bother playing it. I mean, it's been so long. You could just watch somebody play it online, But yeah, no. And also, I did play a little bit of this game. I never beat it, but a lot of the rooms look the same. It's kind of hard to know where you're going when everything looks identical to itself. So that in itself kind of really, pissed me off a little bit about the game. But it's still a Resident Evil game. It's definitely Resident Evil. It is what it is. I think it was one of the first Resident Evil games released on the PS2. So yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be the best. Yeah, alright, so let's move on. So Revelations 2. Where am I gonna put this? I'm gonna put this in C tier. Okay, so Revelations 2, it's an episodic thing. Um, it goes by episodes that were released, like I think like every month or so. Um, it was, they wanted it to be a return to form for survival horror, because after Resident Evil 6, people got really pissed off that it was going more towards an actiony approach, and they wanted to ground the series back to the way it used to be, which I give them props for. Um, I just feel like I see. I don't really like Revelations all that much, just because it's hard to play one single player. I mean, it is playable, single player, but it's a lot better to play with a friend, and it doesn't have online co-op, so you're more or less kind of stuck, inviting somebody over your house to play as opposed to just playing with somebody, a million miles away in China or whatever if you live in the United States. It's one of those games where, like, the zombies, they looked pretty cool, but they also had flaws. Alex Wesker, who was the last boss in the game, she doesn't really, like, where did she come from? She came from out of nowhere. It seemed like they were just trying to shoehorn her in, after Wesker died in the fifth one. It felt really, I don't know, it felt really, kind of sluggish. I didn't really like it all that much. But I did love the fact that Barry was in the game. He is one of my favorite Resident Evil characters of all time. And I love the fact that his daughter Moira is in the game too. And they disagree on a lot of things. And Barry's, that typical dad, the Jill sandwich guy. But they have a lot of backstory as father and daughter. The reason why they don't disagree, or the reason why they disagree, Moira accidentally shot her sister with one of Barry's guns, and she feels guilty about it, which is why she doesn't pick up a gun until the last part of the game in Resident Evil Revelations, which I thought was really cool. It's a cool story to tell. And also, this is the game where Allison Court didn't voice Claire anymore, so Claire looks and sounds kind of like frumpy a little bit. Like, she doesn't seem, animated like she did in the previous games, which is it kind of bothers me a little bit, because, we all know and love Claire for being Claire. And I don't think there's any real reason why they should have toned down her character and made her, a little depressy, but I don't know. And yeah, Revelations, I didn't completely beat the game, but I don't know. It's one of those games where it's just kind of there. That's why I put it in average, because it is very, very average. I wouldn't wanna, if I had all these games to choose from, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, let's play Revelations 2, kind of thing. It is what it is. Yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say about Revelations 2, so let's move on. Resident Evil Survivor, Gun Survivor 2. Let's just put this in the garbage tier. And I'll tell you why. Because Gun Survivor 2, it was only a Japanese exclusive, which right there obviously means that it's not that great of a game. From what I've heard about it, obviously I have no access to it because I live in the United States. I could always buy a Japanese version and a Japanese PS3 or whatever, but I don't really want to do that. That's a waste of money to me. But it's a Japanese exclusive, and there's no dialogue in the game. It's all subtitles, which, I mean, I wouldn't really want in a Resident Evil game, like, anyways, like just having subtitles, no people conversating and talking with each other. It just kind of makes for, like, not that great of an experience when it comes to gaming. And also the source material that they took, it's based on Resident Evil Code Veronica X. So they took the source material from that game, and they basically they tried to put it in like a first-person shooter type game, which didn't work. They didn't. I don't think they even really did the source material justice. But yeah, that's my take on that. It's not really that special. There's nothing new or fresh or exciting about it. It just is what it is. So let's move on. So okay, fuck this game. Umbrella Corps. Yeah, this game's garbage. When it first came out, even people didn't even like it when it first came out. To be honest with you, like, I've seen a bunch of YouTubers talk about how they played it at PAX for the first time and they couldn't stand the game. They hated it. And it was basically dead on arrival, and rightfully so. It's a shitty game. I've seen gameplay of it, and the enemies are supposed to be the main thing in the game that scare you and keep you on edge, but you got these derpy fucking zombies walking around, not even doing anything to you, and you just shoot them once and they kind of disappear. Basically what it is, it's like a combat game where you verse your friends, and it's like Call of Duty, but it's not even Call of Duty. It's like a shitty discount, like low budget, obviously not inspired Call of Duty, and it's garbage. I hated watching even gameplay of this game. It just sickened me. Just thinking about playing this game just it made my like blood boil. I hate this game with a passion. I don't know what they were thinking releasing such a garbage piece of shit game out there like this. Like, I hope Angry Video Game Nerd does a video on this fucking game, because it is terrible. This game is terrible. Alright, so I've let my anger subside a little bit. I'm good. I'm doing alright. I'm still Luke from Wrestling with Evil. I'm not Mr. Hyde. So let's move on. So, okay, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Okay, this game, there's a lot of things that I like about this game, but overall, I'm going to talk about one thing that I don't like first, and then I'm just going to completely talk about everything that I love about the game. I love, or I don't like really the dodge mechanic. It doesn't work all the time. It's hard to use, and when you try to use it on the Nemesis, you end up just getting hit again. It's like a free hit for him, and it just doesn't work out like I think the developer planned. I think it was more or less like a last-minute mechanic, but you could play it without the mechanic, and sometimes you'll hit it and it works fine. So, I mean, it's a mechanic that kind of comes up every now and then. It's useful when it's useful, and it's not when it's not. And if you try to use it, you're probably gonna end up not master. It'll take a lot to master, basically. I still haven't mastered it yet. I still don't even know how to use the mechanic. I just like playing the game for what it is without it. So, the great parts about this game, Nemesis is like Terminator and Frankenstein mixed. He's a badass motherfucker. He has a trench coat on. He looks like a G. He has tentacles coming out of his body. He says stars, and he's here to kill Jill, Brad, Chris, and Barry, the remaining stars members left from the very first game. And he does a pretty good job on it. He does a pretty good job at first, because he kills Brad, sticks a tentacle right through his fucking head, and just kills him, and and that's it. And that's your first introduction to Nemesis. He's a really cool tyrant and enemy. You gotta love him. He stalks you. He runs faster than you do. So you have to kind of do like a zigzag pattern when it comes to, Nemesis, to make sure that, you avoid his attacks and he doesn't damage you. He's a really cool boss. You can put him down, get some items off of him, like, like handgun parts and whatever to make different weapons. He'll drop 3 first aid sprays, like a first aid spray kit with 3 first aid sprays in it. And if you kill him 7 times, you get unlimited ammo for whatever gun you choose. It's a really, really cool experience playing this game. I really love... actually, the 360 turn makes its first appearance in this game, which they knocked that mechanic out of the park right there. That is the most useful mechanic in this game, bar none. Like I said, Nemesis is a badass. There's a lot of really cool RNG in this game. Like, you're not going to battle the same enemies in the same area all the time. Like, in the very first part of the game, you're obviously going to face zombies and dogs, but, you know, there are other parts in the game that are crucial for speedrunning, especially, where, you know, it'll either be a hunter or a dog, or a zombie and a hunter, or a zombie and a dog. It, like, mixes it up, and it makes it fresh, replayable, fun as hell to play. Another boss fight is the Gravedigger, which I really love that boss fight. I hope they add it into the Resident Evil 3 remake. I'm really excited for the Resident Evil 3 remake, honestly. I feel like if they do it right, like they did with the Resident Evil 1 remake, I feel like if they do it right with the Resident Evil 1 remake and the Resident Evil, sorry, my cat distracted me again. I feel like if they do it right, like they did with the Resident Evil 1 remake and the Resident Evil 2 remake, and they take the new mechanics from Resident Evil 2 remake and just, you know, but go about it like the Resident Evil 1 remake and just keep everything in the game but also add new and different shit. I feel like the Resident Evil 3 remake could be the best Resident Evil game of all time. It looks phenomenal so far. It hasn't released yet. It releases in about 2 months, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, there are a lot of things that I could also at points in the game that are predetermined. You have a choice where you could do one thing over another, and it'll affect, you know, what what cutscenes you see and what you do, and whether Nemesis comes at you or whether you can down him and get some free shit, or, you know, either or. Yeah, so that choice system is really cool. I hope they bring that back in the new game. I really, really love Resident Evil 3 for everything that it is, besides that shitty dodge mechanic, and I just hope and pray that, you know, they do it justice, because Nemesis is always going to be the best Resident Evil boss and villain of all time, besides Wesker. I mean, Wesker and Nemesis are like A tier. Like, if I had a tier list of every boss and every tyrant or whatever, like, they would both be S tier. I don't think there's anything else that comes close to them, especially in this series. So I basically talked for, I think, 10-15 minutes about Resident Evil 3, so let's move on to Resident Evil 6. Alright, so this is gonna piss some people off, because I know that there are die-hard fans of Resident Evil 6, but I feel like it was just, Resident Evil 6 was just a big, over-inspired mess, and mumbo-jumbo. Like, it was trying to be everything, but it ended up being not good at anything, you know. Like, you know, you had the horror aspect with Leon and Helena, and then you had that more action-y approach, which I think is bullshit and should have never been a part of Resident Evil. With Chris and Pierce, and then you had more of like the run away and hide type thing with Sherry and Jake Mueller, who is Wesker's son. And yeah, and Sherry Birkin returns in the game. That's really cool. And then you have Ada's part of the game, which you unlock after beating, I think, all 3 separate scenarios. You got Ada, which is more like puzzle based. And it doesn't really do good with that either. Like, that, the whole game is kind of, like, just terrible, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are points in Leon's campaign and in Chris's campaign that I liked. I like the fact that they brought Sherry back. I like how Leon looks. You know, they made Chris a drunk, which is, I don't know, I guess, whatever. Whatever. But, you know, this game, I played through most of this game. I just didn't like it. All the controls are kind of like odd, and you know, the things that you have to do to get through certain parts of the game, like to do a dolphin dive and slide on your back underneath something. Yeah, that has no place in Resident Evil, in my opinion. But that is just my opinion. So is this whole list. It's all based on my opinion, how I feel about it. Definitely after this video, let me know how you guys feel. If you guys liked Resident Evil 6, I'm knocking this game because it's a game that that I would revisit with maybe more of an open mind. But right now, with, you know, playing most of it, I could say that it's not good, and I wouldn't really pick Resident Evil 6 up I would just go from 5 to 7 and just, maybe watch some YouTube videos about Resident Evil 6's lore. Because, I mean, it has some really cool things in the lore of Resident Evil 6 that are interesting, but I can't really say that Resident Evil 6 is a good game in general. Like, even what it tried to do was, not very good, in my opinion. And also, it looks like a dude is blowing a giraffe on the cover, which, the fuck? Who designed that? I don't know. Let's move on. I'm getting sidetracked with that dude blowing that fucking that giraffe over there. So Resident Evil 7. This game came out after Resident Evil 6, a few years after. Came out in 2017. I'll put this in the good tier, and here's why. The first part of the game, is really phenomenal. You're Ethan Winters, this new character that's first appearance in the Resident Evil series franchise, and he's set out to rescue his wife Mia, who has been missing for 3 years, and she is in Dulvey, Louisiana for some odd reason. And he needs to find out what happened, why she's there, if she's okay, to basically rescue her. So he finds her in a jail cell, and things are all fine and dandy. They're about to get the fuck out of there, and then she switches on him, turns on him, and just becomes this, like, demon, kind of like the Exorcist, like, just turns into, like, this crazy bitch. Like, she cuts your hand off with a chainsaw at one point, stabs you in the hand, right through the hand. Like, imagine me with a knife right through my hand. That's what it looked like. She takes a screwdriver to your hand. She tells you to go fuck yourself. She says a whole bunch of really nasty things. She's a very nasty person, so you gotta shoot her. You gotta shoot your wife, which is really fucked up. You gotta shoot your wife and take an axe to her neck at one point. It's just a really fucked up sequence in the game. I really enjoyed it. Also, a lot of, like, the boss fights are really good. I like Jack Baker. He's a phenomenal character. His boss fight is a little hard, but I could take it. I could take it with, I could take the licks and keep on ticking. It's whatever. I thought Marguerite was a badass boss. Lucas was a really cool addition to the game. He was like the mastermind, planting bombs and being that, jigsaw type villain. I really enjoyed that. Overall, the first part of the game, like I said, until you get to the sunken ship, was really good. But once you hit that sunken ship and then you get into the salt mines after that, the game just loses its luster completely. I mean, the basic enemies in the game are called the Molded. When you first see them, it's like really cool. It's really cool. They're really awesome, cool enemies, but there's not really much variation. I mean, you have the ones that walk, the ones that are tougher and they walk, the ones that, are kind of dog-like on all fours and they're faster. They run at you faster and, damage you faster and all that shit. And then you have the fat Molded, which they just puke on you and do damage to you. I don't know. But, I mean, I would have liked to see, maybe some spiders. That would have been cool. They're in Louisiana. They have giant fucking spiders down there. Like, don't tell me that, the Molded didn't attach itself to a spider and, basically morph it into this unstoppable fucking, spider where you have to shoot all 6 of its legs off and then, it'll open up and then shoot the opening and then you could kill it. That's exactly how they should have made it. Add some spiders, some other creepy shit. I don't know what's in Louisiana. I don't live there, but I know there's gators down there. They could have added some, gators or something like that. Alligators. I don't know. It could have been cool. But, yeah, no, it loses its luster after the first half of the game, which really disappointed me because I really loved the first part of the game. And I didn't beat Resident Evil 7 because I got to that sunken ship and I lost all the shit that I collected in the game with Ethan, and I'm just like, what the fuck do I do now? I don't want to be Mia. I don't want to have to do this, but it was a good game for what it is. It's good. It's not really good. It's not the greatest game of all time, but it's good. All right, so let's move on to Resident Evil Code Veronica. So where am I gonna put this game? I'll put this game in the good tier. Also, there were parts about this game that are really, really good. The fact that Claire and Chris meet up for the first time, and you see that embrace of brother and sister, like that's a cool moment. Um, yeah, so basically Claire gets, captured because she's looking for her brother at an umbrella base somehow. She stumbles upon an umbrella secret base where they train their soldiers. And she gets, captured, put into a jail cell. The guy lets her out. And basically there's a zombie apocalypse that broke out on the island, Rockford Island. And she has to find her way, out of the area. Basically, pretty much. Find her way off the island, which she does, and then she ends up getting trapped in Antarctica, and then shit goes south, and then you play as Chris, which is a really good part in the game. But the problem is that the transition between Claire and Chris, they're not always, they don't really tell you when you're going to transition from one to the other. So it's more like if you don't have certain items on Chris or Claire, like you could potentially die very easily because you would have no weapons left. It's one of those games where it has a few issues, but overall, it's really good. The story is really cool. I like Alexia. She's a badass final boss. I love the fact I love the Nosferatu boss. He's also really cool. He's Alfred and Alexia's father. And I like Alfred. I think he's a really cool, like, annoying, heel villain type character. Another thing that I don't really like about Code Veronica is Steve. He's a really, really annoying, pretentious character. And he's kind of a whiny little bitch. And I don't really want that in my Resident Evil games. It's really, like, cringy listening to him talk a little bit. He sounds just... Like I said, it's just so whiny and just like, like a child, like a spoiled child. And nobody wants to hear a spoiled child playing a game for, the 15 hours that it's going to take you to finish the game the first time. It's not really, my cup of tea. So yeah, but I like Code Veronica for what it is. The music is great. And also, once you get to that castle part in Code Veronica, like the music in that area is just so good. It has a very Exorcist, vibe to it. It's phenomenal. Like, it's phenomenal. But, they brought a lot of the classic enemies back in Code Veronica, which I really appreciated. They made another giant spider for Resident Evil Code Veronica, also really cool. The enemies are really cool. Zombies are really cool. And, most of the characters are good, besides Steve. So yeah, that's Code Veronica. I'm happy putting it in the good tier for now. I might, at the end, I'm going to revise everything and maybe, put some stuff in other tiers and rethink my whole process. But, let's, continue on. So, Resident Evil, the original. Alright, I'm going to put this in... I'm also going to put this, in the A tier, the really good tier, because it's not the greatest game. And certainly not the greatest Resident Evil game of all time. I mean, there were some really iconic moments, and obviously, Resident Evil the original is the first game in the series. Without this game, there would be no other Resident Evil games to even put on a list like this. So you got to give it props for what it is. The characters, I mean, the voice acting is shitty, but I love the voice acting. It's really cheesy, really B-movie like. I like the cold open in the beginning of the game where it's live action and it's really shitty acting, and I don't know, it just makes it intense, and like once you get into the game, it gets you fucking pumped up for what's about to come. When that zombie turns his head for the first time, the classic zombie, it just scares the living shit out of you. I had nightmares when I was a kid when I first saw that, when my dad was playing the original Resident Evil 1. Let's just say that. It's been in my dreams before. Or nightmares before in a really bad way. And also when the dogs run through that window for the first time, I love it. Like, those dogs, that dog hallway is so creepy looking. I just absolutely adore this game, but there are a few negatives. It didn't really age that well, which is why they remade it, and it got remade a long time ago, and the remake still holds up phenomenally. So, I mean, it's one of those remakes that, you know, you could gladly not play this game anymore and just play this one and be completely fine, you know, all caught up with whatever you need to know about the original. Like, yeah, and also, you know, not only just is it outdated and it looks kind of shit, like, you know, like shit, but the hunters, once you get to the portion of the mansion where you have to explore the rest of the rooms in the mansion, those hunters, man, they're a pain in the ass. They really are. They jump all over the fucking place. Like, I know you have to run past them, and that's, you know, the ultimate goal, but you know, they'll claw at your foot and still do damage to you regardless. So in some hallways you kind of have to put them down, but you know, just the hunters in general, like it's I don't know. They're hard enemies to talk about. They jump way too high, and for the slowness of, you know, of you being able to draw your weapon and attack them, they're way too fast. And they you know, they pretty much know what you're gonna do before you do it, and that's crazy. But yeah, I love the original Resident Evil. It's very iconic, a phenomenal game, and it definitely put the series on the map. If this game hadn't have done well, I don't think there would have been a follow-up to it. Maybe there would have been a sequel, and I don't think the sequel would have looked anything like it originally did. It probably wouldn't have had as much of a budget as it did, and it probably would have looked, you know, more or less the same. So I'm glad that Resident Evil 1 is out there and it's still alive. People still live stream it and play it. It's a good game. And it has a lot of classic lines like Barry's Jill sandwich line that everybody still references till this day. It won't die ever, and I hope it never does because it's such an iconic line. It's funny too. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say about the original Resident Evil. It's just a good game. It really is. There are points that are annoying, and you know, it becomes a bit of an annoying task, especially once you hit the chimeras in the lab. But you know, overall, it's a decent game. It's a decent game. It's not the best. It's really good. So let's move on. Revelations, the first one. I'm gonna put that in the good tier because it's not a really good game. There are problems with it, but overall, some of the bosses were really cool, like the comms officer and that one tyrant that has his heart exposed and he looks more fish-like. That was really cool. Some of the characters were very off to me. I didn't like a lot of them. I like the fact that Chris is in the game along with Jill. I didn't really like Jill's partner, Parker. He's like, I don't know. You don't really get to know him all that well. Like, he doesn't really have all too much story. But it's a phenomenal game. It originally came out for the 3DS, which blew my mind when I first played it. And I think it still holds up to this day. It's one of the best Resident Evil games of all time for sure. And it's way better than its sequel, Revelations 2, which I didn't think sold that well. So they're probably not going to make a Revelations 3, but you know, the original Revelations is great, so I'm going to take it for what it is, and I like the whole, you know, I like all the enemies, the fact that they're all aquatic-based and all that stuff. Like, it's really good, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to really say about that. Yeah, like I said, the bosses are great, and characters are typical, you know, typical Chris, typical, you know, Jill, and whatnot, so yeah. So, let's move on. Okay, Resident Evil Gun Survivor. I'm going to put this right here. It's not a good game. It's pretty much their first attempt at you know, like a really shitty like first-person shooter first-person shooter type of game, and it didn't really work out well. And if you think the voice acting is bad in the original Resident Evil, oh, it's even worse. It's even worse in the original Resident Evil Gun Survivor. Like, it's horrible. And basically, they just have the same enemy types as, you know, Resident Evil 2. Definitely just takes everything and just, you know, just like, okay, we'll put the same thing in this game. But, you know, they added a few new enemies. Like, there was, like, these monkey-esque enemies where, you know, I could either take them or leave them. I don't care about this game all that much. They made Mr. X kind of look like a little bit of a bitch in this game. He's so easy to put down. And even the final boss, from what I saw, I haven't really played through much of this game, but from what I saw, it wasn't that great. I'll probably play it on stream though, just to, laugh at it and make fun of it. I'll do like some sort of like bad video game thing where I break down a video game that's shitty and why it's shitty and whatever. So that could be fun, something fun that I could do in the future of the channel. But right now, it's better left unplayed. Let's just say that. It's not really anything special. I wouldn't go and pick it up. This game is pretty cheap. If you find it on Amazon, it's probably got to be like $20, maybe like 10, $15, which probably isn't worth it. So I just wouldn't go out and get this game. Why bother? Alright, so there are 6 more games left. Let's continue on. The original Resident Evil 2. Hell yeah, man. This game is phenomenal. It blew my fucking mind when I first saw the cold opening to this game. Like, the fact that Leon says, "Get down!" And, Claire just ducks and he just shoots the zombie right in the head. And, oh man, it's so cool. And the "why did he bite me" guy. And, classic Resident Evil 2. It's so good. I feel like the boss battles in the original were better than the remake. I feel like the enemies even look better too, to be honest with you. Like William Birkin, when he transforms, it makes like these weird gushy noises, and it just sounds really off and odd and just like, really creepy, kind of like something from like a Slaughterhouse film, kind of like a 13 Nights of Halloween special, just like some gory, just disgustingness that you look back on it and you're just like, oh shit, that was actually really gross now that I think about it. But no, all the enemies in this game are really cool. They introduced a lot of cool things. They introduced Mr. X for the first time. He played a lot differently than he did in the Resident Evil 2 remake. He was more or less that guy that showed up in, predetermined sequences, and then you can put him down and get some stuff. And then when you exit the room, that's when he's shown coming back up from the dead, like, it's like, oh shit, I have to deal with that guy in the future. Is he going to follow me? He doesn't follow you. Don't worry. He does not follow you. And then when you get to the B scenario, it's really cool. You get to, like I said, fight Mr. X, and then the final battle is Mr. X, and it's just, you get a different ending, and then, you face William Birkin's 5th form, which is, when I first saw him, his fifth form, I was just like, holy shit, what the fuck is this thing? God damn, So, yeah, Resident Evil 2 is a really, really great game. I feel like the voice acting was a little bit better in the remake, and also there were, Claire and Leon communicated more in the original Resident Evil 2 as opposed to the Resident Evil 2 remake. Which I liked more, and that's why I put that higher than the Resident Evil 2 remake. And also, I love the fact that Marvin turning into a zombie is more dramatized in the original Resident Evil 2. I enjoyed that sequence a lot more than, 2 remake, because, Marvin just kind of sits up in the Resident Evil 2 remake, and it's not really that special or important. He didn't save your life or anything, so whatever. But yeah, I love Resident Evil 2, and honestly, like, I wish they would have made a Resident Evil 2 remake that followed the source material of Resident Evil 2, and just kept it, I don't know, but at least we have 2 Resident Evil 2s, so I can't really complain. But yeah, did the remake do it justice? Yeah, I guess. Also, I will talk about something that's not in the Resident Evil 2 that's in the remake. The marshalling yard. That is probably the coolest area in any Resident Evil game. Like, I enjoy so much going to the marshalling yard and the crazy music, and like Resident Evil 2 has some of the best music in the series. All 3 of these games have phenomenal music, in my opinion. That's why they're up there, as greatest of all time, But yeah, Resident Evil 2 is good. When you run through the city, unlike the Resident Evil 2 remake, there's some strategy involved. You have to, conserve your ammo and run past certain zombies and know where the zombies are and kind of maneuver past them. And it's just it's definitely a really cool game. I love playing it, especially when I have a few beers and I get really tipsy. Like I'll pop this, Resident Evil 2, the original, in and just have a fucking blast. I love the game. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to really say about Resident Evil 2. It's a phenomenal game. It really is. I'm so in love with this game. I mean, just watching my dad play the first 3 games when I was a kid just made my childhood so special. And that's why I like live streaming these games for all of you guys, because if I find it special, hopefully you guys find it special, and if you don't find it special, maybe me finding it special will make it special for you too. So, yeah, that's why I love Resident Evil and play it for you guys, these games. So let's move on. There's 5 more games. I'll try and do this fairly quickly because there's not really a whole lot to say about these games besides like maybe 1 or 2 of them. So Operations Raccoon City, let's put this where it belongs. It's not a good game. Everything they tried to do, they brought back William Birkin. He doesn't really look all that great. I'm not really, there was nothing in the game that really shocked me or made me happy or anything. It was basically just, the story is like a Black Ops team is coming in and trying to do the bidding for the bad guy, and they end up getting screwed over at the end. And the thing that I hated the most about this game was the fact that you had, like, at the end of the game, you had to choose whether you kill Leon S. Kennedy, the man himself, and the most important male protagonist in Resident Evil, period. You have to either kill him or save him, and if you don't kill him, if you decide to save him, you get the bad ending, so you would have to end up playing all over again and kill Leon to unlock the good ending, which is bullshit. There's no reason why you should kill Leon in any Resident Evil game. I don't know what they were thinking. It's way too actiony, and also Nemesis sounds like shit in this game too. It's just a really big fuck you to Resident Evil fans in general. Like, oh, hey, here's a game that, with zombies, zombies are back, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, yay. But they also brought hunters and lickers back, and, they were so hard to put down. It took, like, maybe, 30, 40 handgun, shells or handgun rounds to put them down. Like, it just, I don't know, it was uninspired, didn't make any sense. It was a really, really shitty game. Not garbage. It was alright playing with a friend, I guess, to have a laugh and just to talk about how shitty it is. But overall, Operation Raccoon City is just a steaming pile of, like, disgusting, like, vomit and shit mixed together. So, yeah, that's my take on that game. Let's move on. So, Resident Evil 4. I will put this game in the GOAT tier gladly. This is one of the games this is the first game that tried to reinvent the series, make it a little more actiony. Well, I mean, the games after 4 made it way too over the top action. I don't even know why they slapped the Resident Evil name on it in the first place, but Resident Evil 4 is a great game. Plot-wise, it's not the best. You're Leon, and you have to go to Spain to rescue the president's daughter. It's like any action movie ever, Oh, I got to rescue the president's daughter. It's like, what are you, Arnold Schwarzenegger? Calm down, Leon. All right, you're not Arnold. You're better than Arnold. You're better than that. So yeah, there were a lot of parts that I liked about the games. Like I love the enemies when they whisper and say creepy things. It's really cool. It's kind of tense at moments. There's a lot of enemies on screen that you could just spray and pray, and it's really fun. All the boss battles are really, really fun. And the best part that I like about this game is that when you first go into the town, you see the chainsaw guy, and like it's just like, oh, well, he probably just damages me like everybody else. No, if he contacts you with that chainsaw, he's going to chainsaw your head off, and you're dead. It's an insta-kill, and I think this the first time that Resident Evil put an insta kill besides Resident Evil 2 with the IV plants in a Resident Evil game, which is really cool. It's a very tense battle trying to kill those chainsaw dudes because of the insta kill. So yeah, it definitely that Resident Evil 4 definitely means a lot to a lot of people. It's the Resident Evil game that the new generation started playing. It's how they got introduced to the series. So I mean, I'm happy for you guys, you know, being rated one of the best games of all time, because it definitely is, for sure. There's no reason why it shouldn't be rated, you know, number one on lists everywhere across the globe, like all over YouTube. But I mean, you know, Ashley, the president's daughter, when you rescue her, man, she's so annoying. Like, she is the most annoying woman, I think, in any video game. Like, she's so, like, you have to kind of, like, hold her hand throughout the whole process. It's like she's a child or something, and it's like it feels very like, I don't know, like sluggish, and just like, really, do I have to fucking, you know, rescue Ashley again? Like, why can't she be an independent woman? You know, stand up and be like, yo, fuck you, Ganados. I'm going to take a crowbar to your dick or whatever. It's like, I don't know. She gets captured, I think, like 4 times in the game, too. It's ridiculous. But anyways, that's my take on Resident Evil 4. There's also one thing that I really, really love about the game, is the merchant. He's iconic, classic. You know, everybody talks about the merchant and how cool he is. Always references the things that he says and whatever. The merchant is the best. He is GOAT tier in my eyes as characters in the game. So yeah, that's Resident Evil 4 in a nutshell. There's a lot of other stuff that I could talk about it, but I don't really have all that much time. So let's move on to Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 I'm going to put in the good tier. It's one of those games where it's when the action in Resident Evil started ramping up, and a lot of people, you know, shit on this game for it. You know, I mean, I like this game, but I don't like playing it in single player mode, just because the AI for Sheva is complete garbage. She gets hit way too often. She's definitely not the best AI and best partner to have. You have to play this game with a friend in order to really, really appreciate its worth and what it's trying to be. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to really say. I think the boss battles are really, really beautiful. The enemies are really cool. You know, it has a lot of variation in it, which I really, really love about Resident Evil 5. And like I said, playing with a friend is awesome. It has a few funny enemies in the game, like those weird, like, kind of like tyrant-y looking guys, but they're stick thin. And they go, and just like, it's just like, what? Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, I don't know. But I enjoy I enjoy Resident Evil 5 for what it is. It's definitely better than average because of the multiplayer in itself. It's probably one of the best multiplayer games that I've played with a friend in a long time. I can't think of a better time that I've had playing a multiplayer game online with somebody than Resident Evil 5. Like, it really does it for me, that multiplayer mode. If it didn't have it, like, the game would probably be in the not so good tier, or probably even the garbage tier, honestly, because, you know, the whole actiony thing and the AI being absolute garbage. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to us? You know? But thank God they added that multiplayer. So yeah, that's my take on Resident Evil 5. Simple. It's in the good tier. You know, it's doing all right. It's not in the blue. So let's move on. Resident Evil 0. Now, this is going to be very controversial to people that watch the channel and just like people in general. I don't like this game at all. I don't like it because for a lot of reasons that I'm going to get into. Billy, I don't like him as a character. Rebecca, she's very inconsistent in this game. She's not the damsel in distress. She tries to act tough, and it just doesn't make sense, you know, her coming from basically literally getting swarmed with enemies, by enemies with Billy, to going into the mansion in Resident Evil 1 and being scared. It does not make a lot of sense at all. Um, a lot of the enemies were really cool. I hate those fucking leech guys, those mimics or whatever they're called. They're one of the ones that suck, and also the eliminators. They're the most horrible enemy in Resident Evil in general. Like, I could say the hunters from Resident Evil 1 are bad or are worse, but they're not, because the eliminators, those monkey little things, they're so small, they're so hard to hit. The hitboxes are just ridiculous with those enemies. You could aim to the ground when they're right in front of you, and you won't even hit them. Sometimes it's just the way it is, the way the game's made. But yeah, I didn't like really a lot of the things about this game. The fact that there's no item boxes, I hated that. The fact that you know, the items hitboxes are so are so tiny. Like, you'll try to pick up a shotgun off the ground, you'll end up picking up an ink ribbon or whatever. It's just, it's bullshit. I don't like that aspect of the game. I think the inventory system really sucks too. I mean, the fact that you switch between one character to the next, it could be useful at certain points in the game, strategy-wise, but overall, I feel like it should have been multiplayer. That would have been really cool for a Resident Evil game of this caliber to be multiplayer. If it was multiplayer, I think it would be in the good tier or a really good tier. They could have made this game so much better, but, they chose to make it the way it is, and, it's good for what it is, but, I mean, I can't really see myself, being completely in awe of this game and trying to speedrun this game. It would be ridiculous. Yeah. But there is one positive. The beginning of the game is excellent. When you're on the train, it's really intense, and there's a really cool moment with one of the Bravo teams, people, and Rebecca and the Bravo team guy turns into a zombie, and they have that interaction with Rebecca. I thought that was really cool. Just like the whole train sequence in general was really, really good. It was made excellently. And I will say my favorite boss in the game, hands down. I didn't like any of the bosses in the game besides the first boss that you see, the Scorpion boss. He's so cool. That I feel like that should have been like a thing in Resident Evil from the beginning, like a giant scorpion as a boss. It reminds me of Jason and the Argonauts, like the old style stop motion Jason and the Argonauts, where he battles those stop motion scorpions, and a scorpion stings a guy right through the chest. Like that to me was one of my favorite movies growing up, because my dad loved those movies, that and Clash of the Titans and whatever. Like, it brought me back to classic Jason and the Argonauts, and I really, really appreciated that. The fact that they put a giant scorpion in a moving train, like, crazy. That's crazy. And also, I'm a Scorpio, and my favorite animal is a scorpion, so there we go. That's the reason why I love the Scorpion boss. So let's move on. We got one more left. Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. This is a game. I'll put it, I don't know, probably garbage tier. I feel like this probably should have been added to a Resident Evil game instead of, been its own standalone thing. But it was for the 3DS, and it kind of makes sense. You can't really put a full game on the 3DS. But, I mean, then again, they made Revelations, so why? I don't know, whatever. But it's a thing that happened, and it's a thing that you can play, and I guess people could probably have fun with it. It's basically like Mercenaries mode for Resident Evil 3, but ramped up in the Resident Evil 5 style of playing, and a lot of characters come back, like Barry, I think, maybe Claire, Jill comes back, you got Chris and Sheva, I think, I think you play as Wesker too, I'm not sure, I think you play as Krauser, maybe Leon, all that shit, so I mean, it's cool, if you want to play as Barry and whatever, which, I mean, I wouldn't mind playing as Barry, but it's just not a complete game. It's basically a side game. It's like if they released Resident Evil Resistance by itself, I could see Resident Evil Resistance being average, like me putting it on the list as average. I mean, depending on how good the game is, or when it's attached to Resident Evil 3 remake, I think with the addition of the Resistance mode and Resident Evil 3 remake, I think it's going to be in GOAT tier for sure. I hope I hope it beats Resident Evil 1 Remake. As sad as that sounds, as much as I love this game, I want it to be beaten. So, I mean, I hope they did it right. Yeah. So, let's go through this real quick and do some last minute changes. So, I'm going to put them in order from best to worst. Resident Evil Remake, number 1, yes. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, yes. Because it is better than 2. It added a lot of really cool mechanics, and the replayability and the and the random enemies, the enemies being randomized in certain places. It makes it so much more replayable than Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 4, yeah, I'll keep that there. Resident Evil 2 Remake it should be here. Resident Evil 1, the original, definitely the right place for that. Resident Evil 7 at the top of good tier. I don't know about that. I'd probably put Revelations first. And then I think I'm going to slide Code Veronica up a peg. So I'm going to put that in the really good tier. Just because Code Veronica was really good. The stuff that I have to say about it is it's not too bad. It's not too much. It's very minor. But yeah, I mean, Code Veronica is what it is, But Resident Evil Revelations should be number 1 in the good tier. Resident Evil 7, although great and whatever, it's still it's one half done. To me, it's not a complete game. They could have done a lot better with this game. I was very disappointed, especially because the last end boss was so horrible. And, there's been so many years that passed by between 6 and 7, and you haven't seen Chris Redfield in so long. And then you see him at the end of Resident Evil 7, and he just looks like absolute shit. He looks nothing like Chris. He looks like garbage. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it in the middle, and then I'll put 5 right here, just because it's hard to play as single player. All right, so let's get to the C tier. I'll put Darkside Chronicles as average, because it is average. It's an average game. There's not really much to go on about it. Outbreak games, yeah, I'll put Outbreak number 2 because I know it's the better game. I've seen gameplay of both, and I liked watching Outbreak 2 more than I liked watching Outbreak File 1. Yeah, this looks fine. Outbreak File 2, Darkside Chronicles, File 1, and then Revelations 2. That looks good. D tier, meh. Let's see how I can rearrange this. I'll put... Okay. So here's the thing. I just shit on Resident Evil 0. I'm right. I don't like the game. I'm not right in it being a bad game all the time. It's my opinion, but I will say that the return to the marshalling yard from Resident Evil 2 was really special in Resident Evil 0, and I love the fact that they put it in there. So I'm definitely going to scoot this up a peg on the meh tier. It's still a meh game, but I'll give it props for being, for exploring places that were in previous games. I always love when they do that. And then I'll put Dead Aim last on the meh tier. The D tier, and then 6 belongs here because it's not as good as this game. And Umbrella Corps. No, this is not Umbrella Corps. Fuck Umbrella Corps. Umbrella Chronicles belongs here. That's fine. E tier, I'll put Raccoon City above these other games. Let's see, Gun Survivor. Yeah, no, fuck that game. Gaiden. I'd probably rather play Gaiden than Gun Survivor. Actually, you know what? I'd probably rather play Gun Survivor over Gaiden, now that I think about it. Yeah, that looks good. And then the garbage tier, all these games. Well, no, actually, this game isn't garbage. It's just not a full game, so I'll put that here. Yeah, I'll put it here, and then I'll put Gaiden in the garbage tier. I'll put it on the top of garbage tier, though. And then, yeah, okay, Resident Evil Survivor 2 belongs second to last. And then, yeah, Umbrella Corps, because fuck that game. Don't pick that game up. Trust me, you will regret it. You will regret every second of playing this game. I guarantee you. Yeah, so that is my tier list. If you guys want to see me make more tier lists, please, type in the comments. Let me know what you want me to do on the tier lists. There are a ton of tier lists on tiermaker.com. A ton of them. Like, I think it's over like 1,000 or something like that. All types of video game stuff. I could even do stuff for like, shows and whatever you want me to do. Please leave it in the comments. Let me know. I would definitely appreciate that. Did you agree with, the tiers being this way? I think this is solidly how I feel. But if you feel also a different way, let me know. Type in the comments, If you want to hate me for putting Resident Evil 1 Remake first, go right ahead. If you love Resident Evil or Umbrella Corps, which I don't know why you would, and if you think it's a GOAT game, then GOAT right ahead and type in the comments. Yeah, so this is all the time I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Yeah, I tried to record this video before, and it didn't download right, so I had to, fuck with the settings, lower some stuff, higher some stuff. So I hope that this game is able, this tier list is able to come out on YouTube, fairly easily. Hopefully it'll get out in a, on a weekend, within a couple days. I'll probably put this. This will probably come out on like Sunday, maybe Monday morning of next week. So definitely stay tuned for that. And yeah. So that's my list. My tier maker thing. If you guys like this video and you want to see more, like I said, feel free to, type in the comments, but also please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. I do this channel for fun, but I love doing this, and I love doing this for you guys. So, I mean, anything that you guys can do to help me with the channel and help it grow, please do it. I would really, really appreciate that. Yeah, so I have been Luke from Wrestling with Evil. Thanks for listening to me rant on about Resident Evil for about an hour and 20 minutes now, I think. It was a lot shorter than the last video that I made, trust me. But, yeah, so thank you guys so much. You have been really great, really awesome, and I will see you guys in the next video. I will be live streaming on Monday. This game isn't going to release until whatever. So, yeah, I mean, the week after that, I'm still going to be live streaming on Monday, but I'm going to be doing, a speed run tomorrow on Monday. Please check that out. I don't know what game I'm going to do yet, and Clyde wants to say goodbye. Right, dude? Right, Doodle? You want to say goodbye? Goodbye, guys. See you later. See you in the next one. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Peace out.